Islam is a religion of peace, love, and mercy. Allah Almighty and His Messenger, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, teach us to be kind, loving, and merciful with both Muslims and non-Muslims. And we are told in Surah An-Nisa, verse 36, worship Allah and associate nothing with Allah, and do good to parents, relatives, orphans, the needy, the near neighbor, the neighbor further away, the companion at your side, the traveler, and those whom your right hand possess. Indeed, Allah does not like those who are self-deluding and boastful. The religion that asks its members to greet one another with love, peace, mercy, and blessings does not allow cursing one another, not even in a joke. And it's very important for us to discuss this topic as it has great significance within the context of Islam. The prohibition of oppressive word environments, profanity, ridiculing, and cursing. And I want to say that this is about learning and understanding. It's not about condemning anyone who curses. It's simply to present to you what Islam does say about this so that you will know and be aware and be responsible and be accountable. In Islam, the use of profanity and offensive language, including body language, so there's no excuse. Body language is 85% of communication, is not only discouraged, but explicitly forbidden. Edinburgh University Press, Journal of Quranic Studies, wrote an article in April of 2008 identifying some aspects of body language found in the Quran, investigated their meanings, gave examples of things that are discussed regarding what it means when you move the head, the eyes. We all know what that eye roll means, the hands, the face, the way that people walk. It tells us something. And we're told to walk humbly on the earth. And the study began with this evaluation of body language in terms of various physical positions and what they actually suggest. This prohibition is rooted in the teachings of the Quran, the Hadith, Ahadith, and the broader ethical principles of Islamic jurisprudence. Currently, obscenity, vulgarity, and lewdness are becoming more and more a part of one's life and persona, where so many feel the need to drop a few swear words now and then just to fit in or sound cool or intimidating. I can't tell you how many times I get told everybody curses. Oh, it's just your point of view that makes it a curse word. No, it's the intention in our hearts behind what we are saying. So I thought it is necessary to share a few narrations that reinforce the position of Islam on the usage of such language and what is the language that Allah actually commands us to speak. So I'm going to tell you what Allah commands and what Allah prohibits. Inshallah, we will get through it all today. So, inshallah, we'll delve into the reasons behind this prohibition, its implications on individual behavior and society, and the importance of upholding this aspect of Islamic ethics. I deem by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that liberating the mind from oppressive word environments can empower us to change. Our motto, our goal, our vision is to elevate our ranks as seekers of the divine in pursuit of the alchemy of happiness. I believe that, and I deem by Allah that by liberating the mind from oppressive word environments, that it can empower us toward change. It can help us plan and direct our lives and free us from negatively constructed social directions. The most extraordinary power base on this earth has always been in the hearts and minds of people, and what comes out of their mouth is an indicator of what is in their heart. Often we judge ourselves, others, and situations with the negative connotation of words that shape and fashion us as the victor or the victim or the villain, the oppressed or the oppressor. horrific events and constructs, words, in other words, like prejudice, sexism, and racism affect our minds, spirits, souls, and environment. All of us know how these words have affected our very lives. Historically, the power of the spoken and written word has shaped and reshaped our realities by prophets, poets, clergy, philosophers, and even ordinary human beings. Words have a profound impact on our lives and have been used to heal the sick, win wars, build civilizations, and connect deeply with our Creator. In the Islamic paradigm, the principle that every creature is a manifestation or the manifestation of a divine word, be, and it is found in Surah 18, verse 109. Say, O Prophet, if the ocean were ink for writing the words of my Lord, it would certainly run out before the words of my Lord were finished, even if we refilled it with its equal. So we have plenty of words to draw from, words that will edify and exhort and guide us to the greatest version of ourselves, to lead. Well, actually, looking at this verse and looking at what the kalam of God, the speech of God is, led to an elevation and celebration of human language in Islamic civilization unlike the world had ever seen before. Muslim logicians ultimately define humans as the speaking animal. So we know that language is central to the experience of being human. Throughout history, language has been used as a weapon of mass destruction. We talk about hate speech. It has been used as a tool for mass construction, from healing to warfare. As humans, we have been born into and reared in environments where language has been socially engineered to stifle and suffocate the complete unfolding and emerging of the human ruh, the human spirit, the fitra of Allah. All of us have met those self-esteem assassinators who mete out toxic put-downs, guilt trips, judgments, criticisms, insults, slights, microaggressions and macroaggressions and humiliations that shape our very self-perception and the way we interact with other people. The human spirit, ruh, must always be at the center of how we move forward, unleashing our highest potential and best version of ourselves. We will not release our highest potential and version of ourselves when we are cursing, and you will even find out how this is even more true when you see some of the ahadith where the Prophet ﷺ talks about what happens to the one who curses. So first and foremost, let us begin by understanding the foundation of Islamic morality as outlined in the Holy Quran, the Book of Islam, the speech of God. And the Quran instructs Muslims to speak in the following manner. First of all, in Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah of the Holy Quran, in verse 83, we are told to speak kindly. You shall serve none but Allah and do good to parents, kinsmen, orphans, and the needy. Ye shall speak kindly to people and establish prayer and give zakat. This is a command of Allah. Then in Surah 3, Al-Imran, verse 17, we are told to speak truthfully. Men and women who are steadfast, truthful, obedient, spend in the way of Allah and implore the forgiveness of Allah before daybreak. We are told in Surah 6, verse 135, to speak justly. O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourself or parents and relatives, whether they are rich or poor, Allah is more worthy of both. We are told in Surah 17, verse 23, to speak graciously. For your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Allah and honor your parents. If one or both reach old age in your care, never let them even never utter to them nor yell at them. In Surah 17, verse 28, we are taught to speak fairly. And if you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, turn away from them, kindred, poor, wayfarer, etc., whom we have ordered you to give their rights, but if you have no money at the time they ask you for it, and you are awaiting a mercy from your Lord for which you hope, then speak unto them a soft, kind word. Allah will give me and shall give you. We are also told in Surah 17, verse 53, to speak politely and say to my servants, the true believers of Islamic monotheism, that they should only say those words that are the best, that are polite, because Shayateen verily sows disagreements among them. Indeed, the Shayateen is to humanity a plain enemy. We are told to call them with beautiful words and eloquent speech. In Surah 22, verse 30, we're told to speak no lies. That is the command. And whoso magnifies, exaggerates the sacred things of Allah, it will be well for them in the sight of their Lord. The cattle are lawful unto you, save that which hath been told you. So shun the filth of idols and shun lying speech. So here we see that lying is compared to idols, to shirk, to the very thing that is the only unforgivable sin. We're told in Surah 20, verse 44, to speak gently. How often do we see and feel the pain of a parent who speaks harshly to their child, or to the spouse that speaks harshly to their spouse, or to the believer that speaks harshly to a believer, or to the believer that speaks harshly to a non-believer. We're also told in Surah 23, verse 3, that we should not speak in vain. And it says, who avoid whatever is vain and frivolous. Literally, and nilahwi is ill speech, idle talk, anything nonsensical, meaningless, and vain, which is in no way conducive to achieving one's goal and purpose in life, which is to worship Allah. I created men and jinn for naught except to worship me. In Surah 33, verse 70, we are told to speak in a direct manner, to speak straight. Don't beat around the bush. O you who believe, guard your duty to Allah and speak words straight to the point in a direct fashion. Don't leave people hanging because you don't communicate clearly and then blame them because they didn't understand what you said. When the Prophet ﷺ guided the ones seeking salvation to control their tongue, this indicated the grave dangers of the tongue, particularly when one gives it free rein. The Bible says that the tongue is a two-edged sword, that it is full of deadly venom. And we know how poisonous the things that we say can be. The Prophet ﷺ's guidance on controlling our tongue underscores the dangers of abusing language or abusive language. We have to realize as Americans that we have been a little brainwashed about this idea of free speech, because free speech comes with responsibility. And we must not trivialize the act of cursing, even in jest. It is hard to find a television program today that does not have curse words in it. And there is this great app out there called VidAngel that you can purchase monthly, and it will delete the curse words from movies. And I'm not getting a commission on that. I'm just sharing it with you. But we have to realize that free speech comes with responsibility. We have the responsibility not to harm others with what we say. We can and will be held accountable for what we say. Even more importantly, we have the responsibility to listen. The habit of verbally abusing and cursing is one of the greatest dangers of the tongue. Many people think too lightly of this and therefore curse their children. Imagine people pray for years and beg and get on their knees and pray and cry out to God for a child, and then they curse that child. People curse their transportation. People curse those who contradict their views, and they curse even in jokes. So today we will examine what was reported regarding the warning against the dangers of cursing and making a habit of this. So first, let's look at the meaning according to the scholars of Islam. Cursing is of two types. The first one is swearing, saying and meaning something terrible to someone through vulgar language, which is usually done in modes of losing one's temper, joking around, being sarcastic, or because someone has just become used to using foul words in their speech. So we need to keep our anger to a bare minimum and not be induced to swear to release our anger and offend someone else. We know that we were told that if not to go near anger, if we get angry, sit down. If that doesn't work, lay down. If that doesn't work, make your wudu. If that doesn't work, pray. Allah Almighty says in the noble Quran in Surah 3, verse 134, who spend in the cause of Allah during ease and hardship, and who restrain anger, and who pardon the people. The Prophet ﷺ came as a mercy to all mankind. We are to be pardoners of people, not condemners of people. And then Allah finishes this beautiful verse by saying, and Allah loves the good. The second kind of cursing, or the second one, is an expressive wish against a person in the hope that they undergo some misfortune. This kind of curse is a different word, and it is related to the evil eye, black magic, and just plain old hatred, which imposes thoughts on one's mind to harm directly or indirectly someone else. And our beloved Prophet ﷺ taught us to be kind to others, just as he was merciful even to his enemies. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was told, O Messenger of Allah, pray against the idolaters. So the Prophet ﷺ said, verily, I was not sent to invoke curses, but rather I was sent as a mercy. If the Prophet ﷺ was not sent to invoke curses, do we think we're superior, so therefore we can invoke curses? Muslims should neither curse each other, as narrated by Sumaira ibn Jundub, radiallahu anhu, that Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, do not curse one another, invoking the curse of Allah or wrath of Allah or the fire of hell. So here we see a punishment. Here we see a consequence of what happens to believers when they curse things. Cursing is such that one who does it can become a recipient. And I'm going to give you the proof of that. Listen, my brothers and sisters, I want you to be protected. Allah Almighty says in the noble Quran, O you who have believed, let not a people ridicule another people. And this is found in Surah 49:11. In marriage and family therapy, we talk about the dangers of speaking in a contemptuous manner and a condescending manner to your spouse. How can you be a garment and speak with this kind of speech? How can you be a woman and call somebody to stand firmly and independently if you speak to them in a way that we're not even allowed to speak to animals, and I'll give you the proof of that too. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, a man or woman utters a word pleasing to Allah without considering it of any significance, for which Allah exalts their ranks in Jannah. Another one speaks a word displeasing to Allah without considering it of any importance, and for this reason they will sink into hell. No, my beloved brothers and sisters, this is found in Sahih Bukhari. And know, my beloved brothers and sisters, that we will be accountable for every single word that we say. The punishment here is very clear. Those who curse others will not be granted the honor of interceding on the day of judgment. This is another hadith pointing out the punishment of cursing, my beloved brothers and sisters. Imagine that you want to have a pure heart, but you don't have a pure mouth. It doesn't work that way. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said in one of his hadith, those who indulge in curses will not be intercessors or witnesses on the day of resurrection. You will not be qualified as one who can testify on the day of resurrection because you cursed. Using foul language and cursing is a sin, even in jokes. And it is also said, and I'm going to give you the proof of this too, that it is a characteristic of the people of hellfire, not the people of Jannah, not the believers, not the mu'min, not the Muslim. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the inmates of hell are of 5 types. And among them, he mentioned the miser, the liar, and those who are in the habit of abusing people and using obscene and foul languages. And this is found in Sahih Muslim. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the hellfire on the day of judgment. Cursing in some ways is sort of a punishment, and we are strictly prohibited from carrying out any acts of this sort. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated in the noble Quran in Surah 3, verse 128, not for you, O Muhammad, but for Allah is the decision whether he should cut them down or forgive them or punish them, for indeed they are wrongdoers. How often do we punish people with our speech? Oh, we might not be conscious of it, but if you just think about it, you will become aware of how often you are punishing someone with your mouth. And look what will happen to your very soul when you do this. You see, cursing means the deprivation and exclusion of goodness, of the mercy of Allah. How can we, who so desperately need Allah's mercy, who know that our beloved messenger came as a mercy to all mankind, want anyone to be deprived of the goodness and the mercy of Allah? And that's what's happening when you're cursing people and the creation of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said, the believers do not slander, curse, or speak in an obscene or foul manner. In a hadith on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet said, it does not befit a man or a woman of truth to be a curser. And cursing a believer, whether they are alive or dead. And I had never seen this before until actually I became a Muslim. And then I saw, interestingly enough, at the funeral of a non-Muslim, someone curse the dead. But cursing a believer, alive or dead, is a great sin. It is a crime that a Muslim should never dare to commit. I was sitting vigil with a Muslim brother who was dying, and when he actually died, his mother began to curse. I didn't know what she was saying, and then they started telling me what she was saying. And this was in front of a soul that had just died. The soul was being disturbed, and then I had to tell her, you cannot do this. This person is entering, is transitioning to Allah, and look what they're listening, what they're carrying with them. To illustrate the enormity of this crime, it is enough to mention the hadith where the Prophet said, cursing a believer is like killing him. Let me say it again. Cursing a believer is like killing him. I have heard so many believers curse their imams. I have even heard believers curse the rightly guided predecessors. Astaghfirullah, may Allah forgive us. Commenting on this particular hadith, and Nawawi said, according to the apparent meaning of the hadith, both killing and cursing are equal in prohibition. However, killing is graver. To kill, to take one's soul without just cause is like taking 9 billion people, all of mankind. To save a life is like saving 9 billion. Other scholars said cursing a believer is like killing them with respect to prohibition, guilt, and deprivation. Because cursing is deprivation of the mercy of Allah, the Almighty, and killing is deprivation of life. So we need to be aware of the rebound of the cursing. When a person curses something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that does not deserve to be cursed, the curse rebounds and comes back onto them, even if that which is cursed is the subjugated wind. How often do we hear people who curse say they feel like they are cursed? Well, yeah, they are. In a hadith on the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas, it was mentioned that the wind blew away a man's outer garment and he cursed the wind. The Prophet ﷺ told him, do not curse the wind because it is commanded by Allah to blow. Whoever curses something and it does not deserve the curse will turn back upon them. Then we are told in Islam was the first religion for animal rights. The Prophet ﷺ stopped the piercing of animals for identification. And then he said in the hadith, well, first and foremost, people often think this is trivial and they curse animals and their means of transportation. Such people are heedless of the fact that by doing so, they mix with cursed things. Their very possessions become cursed and they become cursed for cursing their possession. It was narrated that the Prophet ﷺ was on a journey with a woman from the Ansar. Remember, the Ansars are the helpers of the Muhajirin, those who are migrating toward Islam. And this woman from the Ansar was riding a she-camel. The she-camel annoyed her and she cursed it. And when the Messenger of Allah heard it, he said, take off the load on its back and set it free because it is now cursed. This is the power, my beloved brothers and sisters, of our words. What does the Quran and the Hadith say specific to cursing a specific person? According to the consensus of the scholars, cursing is prohibited. Ibn al-Nawawi said there is a consensus among the scholars of this. He said that cursing means to deprive or expel. And in the Sharia, it means the deprivation of mercy, the mercy of Allah, the exalted. For a person whose status and end are not decisively known, depriving them of the mercy of Allah, the Almighty, is not permissible. Imagine that a people of peace, Muslims, the doers of peace, could possibly deprive someone else of the mercy of Allah. The scholars have said it is not permissible to curse a specific person, whether they are a Muslim or a disbeliever, unless there is a Sharia text that tells us that a specific person died or will die as a disbeliever, like Abu Jahl and the Shaitan. And I want to be very careful with this because we know that there are like 5 places in the Quran that talk about Allah cursing. And so one time I had somebody sort of flip off with me and say, well, Allah curses. I said, are you Allah? There's none like unto Allah. We can't compare that. The authentic ahadith, we find cursing is permitted in the following cases. And I want you to listen up. If this applies to you and you're a revert, you're forgiven for this because it's in the past. But you will also be learning something so that when you hear this as a da'i or a da'iya, you will be able to respond with intelligence, with the intellect of the heart. So these there, and you can just look this up, hadiths where cursing is allowed. I will just shorten it because I didn't want to bring all of these hadith. I wanted to reach the goal of the whole class in the time allotted. In the authentic hadith, we find cursing is permitted, such as cursing women who artificially lengthen their hair, those who have their hair artificially lengthened, women who tattoo or have themselves tattooed. And know that anytime it says a woman, it also means a man. The two parties of a riba transaction, riba, interest. Now, let me remind you that the scholars say that in America, the fiqh al-aqaliyat allows for this as long as you pay it off as soon as possible and do it within your means. Those who produce images, now we mean three-dimensional images. And you see, if I had had the opportunity to tell that person who's interested in Islam this hadith before, they would have never asked someone for a picture of themselves. So we know that for the most part, taswir is the subject of three-dimensional pictures and figurines, but this is just to shorten it and to give you, there is authentic hadith on every one of these things I'm mentioning. Evildoers, oppressors, disbelievers, and those who misappropriate the limits of their land. This is general cursing that does not specify someone in particular. And it sounds funny, but actually in this second case, you are cursing what Allah curses. And we are told to love what Allah loves and hate what Allah hates. Cursing is from the al-khabayr, the great sins, the major sins, the gravest of the grave major sins, in fact. The Muslim Ummah has been afflicted by some who joke with each other by sending curses and abuses as they recklessly curse their fathers and mothers, even though this is one of the grave major sins of the Prophet ﷺ, who said one of the gravest and grave major sins is when a person abuses their parents. Parents are the cause behind one's existence in this dunya. So they should not be harmed even by as little as being shown the sign of tedium, indifference, and annoyance in front of them by using the word ugh. And I would say the modern day translation would be whatever. And again, look at the body language. Those who curse their parents are committing a grave major sin and deserve the supplication of the Prophet against them, as in the hadith where he said, may Allah curse the one who slaughters for the sake of anything other than Allah, the one who shelters, one who causes mischief upon the earth, and that would be treason. You know somebody's committed treason in the Islamic State and you shelter them, and the one who curses his parents. We need, my beloved brothers and sisters, if you want to elevate your rank as a seeker of the divine, we need to purify our tongues. Suppose cursing is dangerous, obscene, and offensive to this extent that we have shown in the Quran and Sunnah. In that case, the believer who seeks salvation on the day when neither wealth nor children will be a benefit to them must refine and purify their tongue from this disaster. We should recall the prohibition of the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith where he said, do not curse one another, invoking the curse of Allah. Nobody wants the curse of Allah. And if you don't believe me, go study those 5 references where Allah curses things. You will know that you do not want the curse of Allah. It says, let me finish the hadith. Do not curse one another, invoking the curse of Allah, the wrath of Allah, or the fire of hell. We ask Allah the Almighty to purify our tongues, hearts, and bodies from everything that stirs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath. Allah the Almighty describes the believers in their namesake chapter, Surah Al-Mu'minun, Surah 23, verse 57 to 60. Listen, my beloved brothers. Indeed, they who are apprehensive from fear of their Lord, those who live and stand in awe for fear of their Lord, and they believe in their Lord's ayat, proofs, evidences, verses, lessons, signs, messages, revelations, etc. And they who do not associate anything with their Lord, and they who give what they give, disperse their charity while their hearts are fearful and trembling at the thought that they are going to be returned to their Lord. And imagine we're looking at this. What about those that curse their very creator, that curse God? One may wonder what those believers fear, even though they hasten to do good deeds and seek to outdo others, to vie and compete for the benefit and the blessings of Allah Azza. And yet our amazement would increase when we consider the similar response of the prophets. May Allah be pleased and exalt the mention of their name when their intercession will be sought. The Prophet ﷺ related that on the day of judgment, people will go to Adam A.S.L.A.M and say, "Oh, our Father, ask for paradise to be open to us." He will say, "Did anything get you out of paradise other than the sin of your father, Adam? I cannot intercede. You should go to my son, Ibrahim, the intimate friend of Allah." But when they came to him, or they come to him, Ibrahim will say, "I am not in a position to do that. Verily, I was but a far friend. You should approach Musa A.S.L.A.M, to whom Allah the Almighty spoke directly." They will go to Musa, but he will say, "It is not my place. You should go to Isa A.S.L.A.M, the word of Allah and his spirit." However, Jesus, may Allah exalt his mention, will say, "I am not in a position to do that. Therefore, they will come to me, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and it will be, and I will permit, and I will be permitted to intercede." We do not want to miss out on the intercession of a believer or of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that's given permission by Allah on that day to speak on our behalf. We will not be able to do that if we have cursed. We've seen the proof. This honorable response of the prophets, may Allah exalt their mention during those momentous circumstances, indicates their continuous longing to increase in acts of worship and their tireless efforts to quit minor sins. But we're not talking about minor sins, we're talking about major sins. What a sublime characteristic for a soul to constantly long for the loftiest ranks. Such souls would never be satisfied with attaining a status lower than their abilities. And this is why Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, for instance, aimed to enter paradise from all of its gates. We can't even get there if we are cursors. Imagine the goal should be that we can get into every gate. In Surah Al-Isra, Surah 17, verse 53, "And tell my servants to say that which is best. Indeed, Satan induces dissension among them. Indeed, Satan is ever to humankind a clear enemy." This verse underscores the need for Muslims to speak in a manner that promotes harmony and goodness, whether it be parent to child, child to parent, imam to student, student to imam. The verse underscores the need for Muslims to speak in a manner that promotes harmony and goodness among people while refraining from language that causes discord and harm. Furthermore, Islam teaches us to show respect and reverence toward others, regardless of their beliefs or backgrounds. Using profanity and offensive language contradicts this fundamental principle of respect and tolerance. The Quran and Ahadith emphasizes the importance of avoiding mockery and offensive nicknames. Surah Al-Hujurat Verse 11, chapter 49. Oh, you who believe, let not a people ridicule another people. Perhaps they may be better than them. This verse emphasizes that we should refrain from condescending, belittling, or insulting others through our words. The hadith, and that is whether the person is present or not present. The hadith, the recorded sayings and actions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ provide further guidance on the prohibition of cursing and using foul language. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said, the believer does not curse, and this is in Sunan Abi Dawud. This hadith highlights the importance of maintaining a dignified and respectful demeanor in our interactions with others, regardless of provocation. Let us also explore the implications of this prohibition on cursing in Islam on individual behavior in society. When we refrain from using offensive language, we create an environment of civility and respect in our daily language. How many times have we been sitting in a room and someone comes in and starts spewing out, meting out toxic words, and all of a sudden the environment becomes gloomy and dark, and you can't wait to leave. Avoiding offensive speech enhances our character and contributes to a more harmonious society. If we obeyed these rules, no one would ever feel humiliated. No one would ever feel castigated and condemned. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said, whoever believes in Allah in the last days should speak good or remain silent. And this is in Sahih al-Bukhari. This statement encourages us to weigh our words carefully and to speak only when we have something positive or beneficial to contribute. The prohibition of cursing in Islam has a profound impact on the preservation of moral and ethical values within society. By upholding these principles, Muslims can be role models for others, promoting a sense of decency and respect in their community. This is especially important today, where offensive language and cursing have become increasingly prevalent in popular culture and social media. It is also worth noting that Islam places great importance on the purification of the soul and the development of moral character. The use of profanity and offensive language not only harms others, but corrupts one's soul. Therefore, adhering to the prohibition of cursing is not just about external behavior, but about inner purification and spiritual growth. It emphasizes the importance of good character, respect for others, and preserving moral values in society. By refraining from offensive language, Muslims can contribute to a more harmonious and dignified society and promote the values of Islam. Imagine that we say our home is our masjid, and we would curse in the masjid. Let us strive to uphold these principles daily and set an example for others to follow. And the most beautiful way that I can conclude this lecture is to go to Surah 14, verses 24 to 26. The example of a good word is like a good, strong tree whose root is firmly fixed, it's established, and its branches reach very high into the sky, to the heavens of its Lord. It brings its crops and fruits every season, literally every while, by the permission of its Lord, and Allah strikes similitudes to humanity that they would possibly remind themselves of. The example of a bad, evil, wicked word is like a bad, crooked tree, uprooted from the earth's surface, not having any stability or ability to endure. Look at those who have been severely abused in life. They struggle to be stable. They struggle to endure. Look at the child that was told by the parents, you are going to never amount to anything. You're nothing. May Allah deliver us from this. May Allah make us to be among the strong trees those that are established. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Transcendent are you, O Allah, and praise be to you as you praise yourself. I bear witness that there is no deity, there is no God except you, and I seek your forgiveness and I repent to you.